everyone, welcome back to the Amazon European Match, where we're back after game one, and LDLC just, did what they normally do. They lose the first game. I mean, that's how they do it in the best of 5, but 23 minutes?
Yeah, we've been feeling pretty French this tournament on the whole, but, I've actually been brushing up on some of my Spanish. I know a lot of very versatile phrases. I'd like to share one with you today. Dame los cabos de batir, los pollos he escapado, which I believe means hand me the jump leads, the chickens have escaped. It's not actually that useful, but this was a fast one. It was a shocking one. Jump cables.
So, Ox, how's your Spanish doing?
Not too well, but I'll speak in plain English. LDLC probably should have banned the Draven. I don't think they needed a game to work that out, but apparently they wanted to, and I think it's very clear now.
So let's dive right into the pick and ban. I mean, I wasn't going to chill, but you were just going to go right into it, because the pick and ban, yeah, not too much of a surprise, I would say.
Well, what we saw was a bit of a gambit coming out from LDLC, where they said, we are going to leave this Draven open. Now, it's been banned 10 games. Played the one time it was unbanned and it won. This is the second time it was left unbanned, and it's another win. But what they were trying to do from the draft was saying, all right, okay, we're going to lock in an early aggressive champion towards bot side, and then if we survive, at least go even going into team fights, playing against Kalista, dragging our support out and having extra engage. The Ornn adding this extra degree of zone control makes it impossible for Draven to teamfight later into the game. Of course, they never got there.
Yeah. So I little bit had a question about the Janna, Ox, you being a support connoisseur. Janna into Renata. Can we talk a bit about that?
Well, typically we saw this matchup a bit in spring when Kalista and Renata were really popular. It was Kalista Renata into Draven Janna. It was picked as a counter matchup. What's interesting here is that we have the supports flipped, right? And as much as we did see some good trades coming out from Exakick in the laning phase, he found some positive momentum. I still think that it doesn't do enough to alleviate how rough this matchup is in the early levels, because as soon as there was one cash-in, as soon as one good play came in bot, Jackspektra got 740 gold in total, 440 from the passive, and it's like, okay, now you can stack your Rens as much as you want, but one auto from him just takes your head off.
Yeah, I do think there was a lot of burden onto LDLC's bot lane to make the most of this early game. Now, I believe we've got some clips from those early game trades to see actually how did it go in those early levels. So we can have a look at them. We can actually see that Exakick and DOS did a pretty good job in level 2 and then a little bit later into the game as well.
Yeah, I mean, moments like this, connecting Tornado with the Glacial Orb as well onto Draven, obviously means he's not even really in a prime position to trade. And also, using a shield on the Janna, if you can get that extra AD on the Kalista, can really make a difference. And sure, these are all positive trades. Jackspektra didn't have the easiest time. But then I believe the next kip is when he got the cash-in, and that was just it. As soon as that happened, that was the momentum they needed.
But this is where it has to start for LDLC, right? Because you're sat here and you think, okay, you need to make sure you have one priority lane. You have got 2 other lanes being pushed across the map. This at least gives you something to work with. And that's all great. But as you said, it is one mistake which happens, and Jackspektra and the crew really start picking up some gold here.
Yeah, and I love the decision-making there to just ensure that Jackspektra, he's the one with the bailout on him, he's the one who they ensure is getting the kill. Yeah. And that's the thing, it's such a volatile risk, because not only are you picking a rough AD carry matchup by taking the Kalista into the Draven, not only are you letting open such a powerful pick who can snowball so easily, but I just think it's a gambit you don't want to run against Jackspektra, because as soon as he had the momentum, it's like anywhere they move their bot lane, this is something we highlighted at the start of the day, Heretics will leverage that pressure to take over wherever they want on the map.
So, I mean, 23 minutes for a game is pretty fast. And I kind of wonder, can we derive everything, can we put everything on Exakick and DOS? Because I kind of felt like the top side of LDLC wasn't, maybe apart from Eika, weren't performing all too well either.
I think that this is the nature of the compositions that were picked in some ways, because I think the whole idea is that LDLC wants to survive to the point where Draven can't really teamfight against that much target access in the backline, that much zone control. Because at the end of the day, if Draven is sat there having to flash out of an Ornn, not being able to approach a Chaos Storm or a Gravity Field, and you've got the threat of Kalista engaging as well, then Draven doesn't really get to impact that game. This game almost has to end early within this time span if Heretics comp is going to win at all. The fact that it's a 23-minute victory means that things went to plan. LDLC, I think they would have been much happier, even if an extra 5 minutes were added onto this game, but they couldn't hang in there that long.
Should they backed off from the fights they eventually had, Ox?
I mean, I feel like at that point, it's difficult to back up because you end up giving up so much. There's moments like this where, fair enough, this ended up being a negative play, but they clearly thought they could get the pick here. I don't think we can look at this and purely say, oh, they shouldn't have fought. I'm personally of the belief, if the game is going to be seen pretty doomed, you should try and actively get yourself back in it. If you lose, it's the best of 5, it's game 1, whatever, you go in the next one. But if you just give everything over the side of Heretics, then you're going to lose.
Maybe this one was...
This one, not so great.
That one's going into Narnia.
I've seen this happen before, and I'm not very high though.
Oh, gosh. Well, after this one, LDLC losing a bit of LP. But of course, LDLC do always lose the first game of a best of 5. They do need to kind of settle into a couple of things. In summer, they've done that in literally every best of 5 they've played. I
mean, I reckon when you're at this stage of the game, you kind of throw the towel in the ring. You start thinking about game 2, because in game 2, that's where you know, have to deal with, again, the AD carry from Heretics. I kind of want to start and pivot the talking points to Jackspektra once more. His Draven performance was outstanding, but we've been talking about this AD carry the entire day, and I just want to show once again why we are doing so.
Yeah, I mean, he's a phenomenal performer, and I feel like on a pick like this, you know, so far ahead in the early levels, basically untouched in that game. Obviously, there was like a couple of bad trades at the start, but from there, like, he had the momentum, and I just think it's simple. Ban the Draven, but bare minimum, even if you're going to leave the Draven open, give yourself a better matchup in the bot lane, because I think the fact that, right, you know, as much as they had the teamfight advantage, it was going to come in later. Top lane wasn't going well, right? All into Aatrox. Mid lane, I mean, it was just two control mages farming waves against each other. They didn't have that pressure point.
And I think actually that's a really big point about the mid lane thing, because when we saw BDS Academy versus Game Warden, then actually in the quarterfinals as well, before that, BDS versus Vitality B, we saw that it wasn't just BDS playing towards bot lane matchups and then everyone piling in towards bot. Actually, mid lane matchup influenced the entire bot half of the map. If you have a non-interactive mid laner, which we were talking about, actually LDLC like to do the opposite of that. They like to play the Ahri, like to play the Talia, stuff like that. Then you can start flipping that bot lane matchup a little bit harder, and as long as you have a bot lane that can go forwards, it doesn't really matter after that point, because someone else is coming to the party. They didn't have that extra factor, they couldn't bring them to play, and then one play sets you behind against such a prolific Draven player.
So we're building up a lot on Heretics. Are there any positive takes for LDLC in this game, Walks? That's a tough one, I think.
I mean, I feel like you have a 23-minute blowout. I think it's hard to take positives away from this. The positive is that it's a best of 5. So you have more opportunities to get back into it. And, you know, we've typically seen LDLC drop down one game. And the thing is, you have to look at it from a perspective that in a best of 5, if you think back to, like, reverse sweeps we've seen, it doesn't actually matter that much going down a game, or even sometimes 2 games. As long as you're learning from those losses, it can give you the momentum you need to carry out the series. I think this was a simple lesson with regards to Draven, but at least they learned it.
0-1 comfort zone.
So actually, on the post-game interview yesterday, we had Crowny, right? And Crowny said that it was going to potentially go fairly close at that point. But LDLC have players that have seen the full distance best of 5s, played more best of 5s. They have that experience. And actually coming into that, it's like, look, it's pretty hard to take that kind of shellacking. That is rough. But you have the experience, you got the tenure, and the mindset to walk back and say, we are champions within our region. We've won best of 5s from harder positions than this. We'll walk it back.
So do you guys like surprises?
I don't know. Have you got a surprise for us? I'll decide
after. Also, because the post-game breakdown might be surprising, because I want to look into the damage stats. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of surprised that the Aatrox still that much damage.
As someone that voted for LDLC, I've decided I don't like surprises.
I do want to talk a bit about the jungle matchup, because I feel like bluerzor did a fantastic job of completely subduing Yike in return, and this Vi really wasn't that impactful. The damage obviously reflects that, but he was super far down in terms of farm, and sure, part of that was that he was getting targeted heavily in his own jungle, but bluerzor just constantly built up this lead, found the momentum, and allowed himself to carry that pressure around the map.
That's a really good point, actually. I think back to Game 3 yesterday, Game World BDS Academy. You saw one of these engaging junglers falling far behind, and the game gets really difficult from that point. We saw it on Wukong yesterday, saw it on Vi in this game. Need to be very careful if Yike gets shut down to that level again.
So, LDLC have chosen red side for Game 2. Does that make you happy? Because, I mean, they just lost on it.
We chose red side in the studio. It's red.
Okay. Ox.
I mean, I feel like, honestly, I think they've clearly have a plan, a strategy coming in for red side. They want to make some slight alterations and see how it goes from there. I personally think that you'd be a bit better from blue side, because it gives you more space to target things like the Draven with bans. Generally, bans are very sort of valuable resources on red side. So, I mean, I expect them to shift things around, but if they lose another game on red side, it starts to really get concerning.
And again, it's the kind of thing where you're worried about stuff like Azir picks at that point, which we've seen a lot throughout this play. It's just ban the champion if people play it. It's too hard to give up at this point. And on blue side, you get first swing at that pick. I
mean, if it's the same timeline against Dusty, LEC is just going to sweep this game, right? And it'll be a 1-1. LEC has to prove now that they can keep up with the explosive Heretics playstyle. Do you think they can trouble Jamada and Initialize?
He addressed me first.
Go on.
And I have to say,
Ladies first anyway.
When I saw the damage meter from Ibo, I was like, Father, apologies.
Look, they're heretics, so clearly going for the apologies from them's a bad idea.
Father, I'm sorry.
You had to slip here one more time. Yeah, I mean, a lot of adaptation has come through from the LDLC side after that game one. There is the joke, of course, that they lose the first game of their best of
That's actually very true, commonly. Yes.
And maybe this was just a massive download game.
Well, they've also learned not go undefeated all the way to the finals because we all know how this turns out.
That's true. They need to go against that narrative.
True enough. And as a reminder, speaking of like bit of a download game and losing the first games of like their best of series, honestly, none of us were that impressed with the draft that we saw from LDLC. They allowed that Azir to be first pick. Jackspektra gets his Draven. The Kalista wasn't really played towards, and it was a difficult game to pull off as well. So we had a lot of questions in draft, and it played out that way in game as well. So if they have downloaded, there should be some fairly easy fixes on the board at the very least.
Honestly, if you give me LDLC on blue side, I'm like, first pick the Azir for yourself.
Yeah.
And then you can allow Jackspektra to go Draven, and if he gets close enough, he gets Rima shuffled into the entire team. Then I can see the shuffle, no pun intended.
Yeah, I mean, for me, normally I'm quite the... I quite enjoy compositions where you've got a lot of go buttons. I especially think at the ERL level, even all the way towards the top. Having the go button just gives you the agency to always find the fights that you want, at the very least, on your terms. They might not always be favorable, but at least you're the one picking those fights, right? But again, I just feel like the way that the comps interact with each other, the context of the draft, who you're playing against as well, going for that Kalista so early on just was a little bit nonsensical at the end of the day.
Fantastic, and I've just got one for producer as well, that we are heading in to Champion Select for Game 2, so we'll see whether some of the things we've highlighted there do come to pass. Heretics currently 1-0 against the LFL first seed. If Heretics can win this match, they will make the finals for the first time as a region for the LVP since 2019. And it's been a long, long time, and LFL have dominated.
That was Mad Lions,
so
if I'm not wrong.
It was Vodafone Giants. Mad
Giants,
Lions was 2018. So
wow.
So it's been a hot minute. So Mad Lions won in 2018. Vodafone Giants lost big, I believe, if I remember my history correctly. Apologies out there if I got that wrong. But either way, Heretics on the blue side again. LDLC over on the red.
Adaptation's already coming out as well. Renekton banned away in the first 3 here by LDLC, and I wonder if they're going to follow up with another AD ban. You know, Kalista, Draven, do you want to leave them both up now at this point?
I'm thinking right here, maybe your bigger worry might be Azir, because you can technically deal with Draven if you pick a longer range AD carry and you outscale the Draven in the late game. But right here, you've left things like the Aatrox potentially open, or you can even first pick something like...
Or you can just go with the Draven anyway.
Let's go!
Just pick something that outranges the Draven. We've seen Crowny pick things like Caitlyn into that kind of bot lane, or like Jinx if the FLS is banned.
I mean, good call, but also, do LDLC potentially run it back because they feel like the biggest issue was the Azir? Right? Do they just feel like it was the outrange of the Azir? Obviously, they're hovering the Caitlyn right now. Like you said, Crowny's run this before. Buff on this patch, personally, I'm not super sold, but if a team could execute on an early game pick like the Caitlyn, I would expect it at the very least to be LDLC to try and shut down this Draven.
Look, and DOS was already pulling out things like the Janna, something a bit surprising and unusual in that bot lane.
Works with Caitlyn.
Exactly, so you could do something like the Lux, or one of those other slightly more off-meta but good combos to go alongside that Caitlyn. I'm seeing the Vayne hover, and I doubt it's locked in. But something like the Aatrox would be less surprising because like how damn good Ibo was on that pick. Just take it away from him. It's Ragner's this time, who has been able to pop off by his own right on some of these top lane picks.
Also, how easy is it to deal with very short-range AD carries? You see that when Ibo was chasing that Kalista, Exakick was in deep trouble here. Jackspektra, if he doesn't have a big line around him of beefy targets that Aatrox cannot get through, he's gonna take the same treatment.
Okay, Renekton. What will they pair it with from bluerzor, though? We've seen the Renekton come out as the answer whenever Aatrox does end up getting blinded recently in the quarterfinals. Typically, it's pretty much only been seen off the top of my head with the Sejuani, which is obviously banned away. So are you going to go for, again, you're something like your Jarvan, just so you have the early game set up to try and shut down the bottom side? Or do you go towards something else, which is maybe, I suppose, like strictly early game as opposed to that mid-game team fight?
I'd like to see the Vi maybe taken away here. Okay, it's going to be the Trundle. It deals with most junglers that are up and available anyway, and things like Poppy have not been banned, which Trundle initially counters in a 1v1, if you will. I still find Poppy to be one of the strongest champions and the bigger facilitators, if you will, for the jungle. But Yike still has a bunch of options in the jungle, even if Poppy gets banned.
This is an interesting hover, but that's all it is for now, so I'll wait until that's locked in. And instead, they go towards Doss's Braum. That Braum, for me, was MVP-worthy versus Dusty. Broke so many ankles, got Denvoxnate's flash from mind games and stuff. Such a pivotal pick and play from the support player. It's locked in here to offer a little bit more support and try and play blocker for some of these melee options.
I wonder if Heretics are gonna ban Kha'Zix away, because Kha'Zix does counter Trundle in the jungle.
In a 1v1, yeah.
He's really good at finding the backline when you have a Draven. And honestly, Yike does have something like the Javan if he wants to resort to something like this. Very immobile bot lane with the Draven. And honestly, he has that Kha'Zix as well, together with a Braum. Kha'Zix could really feel the pain.
I really, really like that call-out, Trundle. Because right now, like you say, 1v versus 1, really good into the Trundle, of course, but also just in general, the setup that's already been provided here. Heretics kind of have a half a read by banning away something like Viego. I wonder if they've actually forced
Belveth as well as a Yike special. They're not sure about that. And of course, you would know a lot about the Belveth with Kanavi being in the LPL.
Belveth, I mean, really,
Trouble's
like, honestly, Trouble, shake my hand. really good call. But also, I think this is maybe also a really good Belveth angle as well.
Okay.
And I think they could very happily take it here. But it's more about how LDLC really want to play the game. So you've got Caitlyn. Does Belveth really fulfill the early game needs potentially from the jungle role that you always want? Potentially
I cannot even tell you how much I really wish we saw that Rammus locked in right there with 380 champions locked in.
Big brain! There we go!
Yeah.
I don't mind the Belveth right here because you know that at least you have one layer of priority, which is going to be that bot lane through the Caitlyn, and you also have counterpick from mid. So you can at least secure that your bot side of the map will be consistently shoving in. Now, if this Karma gets locked in here, is one of the toughest champions for Braum to play into, because Braum gets really shoved in by enchanters and mages in the bot side of the map. But do you really want to shove a Karma next to a Draven? I'd rather see something like the Nautilus, the Leona, something that can lock down things like Belveth in a team fight.
Yeah, one minor worry I also have is that there's not really too many go-buns here for Heretics, right? If they go towards that Karma, sure, they're going to have the ability to potentially find people out with the pillar and try and follow up on it, but it's not always going to be the most consistent thing. And like you say, mid lane priority is Eika's to pick, right? He's on R5, he knows he's into Viktor. Viktor isn't really taking mid lane priority into many of these
I don't know what
picks.
pushes Viktor in that hard though, because Viktor's usually picked.
Ori does a really good job.
Viktor's usually picked as a neutralizer because like, you'll push my wave, I'll push my wave. You push my wave, I'll push my wave. So I think it's sort of a priority mid on demand. Like I want to invade or I might get invaded here, shoving, blow your mana and pushing that wave. So I don't mind the Viktor, but the thing is that I'm not too sold on the Karma. I think the Karma got picked here just so they can make sure that they have that shove into that bot lane. They don't allow that Caitlyn free reign on the map. Something that I will commend LDLC for, though, that they didn't have in the previous games. 4 damage sources. You lose 1, you have 3.
I'll also say, Yike, last game, got invaded 3 times before he finished his second clear. The Karma lock-in to go alongside Jackspektra's Draven might make that a bit tricky. And again, it's on a Belveth who doesn't really want to be that interactive early until there's an item or so in. You'd love a Kraxer, a Blade of the Ruin King or something, and I'm a little bit worried if that comes to pass.
I'd like to see, for that reason, Yike to possibly start from the bot side of the map and end towards the top side of the map. Because when he did the opposite, you saw that the bot lane from Heretics had priority towards that bot side of the map, and they instantly invaded that quadrant, leaving Yike with only 1 quadrant to his availability. And having that Belveth, you want to be able to farm as much as is humanly possible in this game. So you need to make sure that you never meet that Trundle in the jungle.
Yeah, I mean, also, I feel like just ensuring that you don't let Ragner get dove on the 3rd wave as well is a pretty big deal. So even though, yes, you've got Caitlyn and Draven in the same lane, yes, it can occasionally be kind of volatile. I agree. I think you have to end up on the top side because right now it just feels like every single time Heretics have bot lane priority, they use it and they use it damn well.
Well, we're on to the Rift for Game 2. Heretics demolished Game 1 in just a traditional fashion for them, but LDLC are looking to strike back. It's Doss's Braum. More importantly, it's Yike's infamous Belveth. I'm very excited to see whether these shift-ups in draft will be enough to bring them back in the series, or the Heretics can continue to be oh so dominant. Right now, as we're heading onto the Rift, it's just the 5-man fan. Doss coming out a little late. I wonder whether he's got an early ward down.
They both look like toys, by the way.
They do.
Yeah, and this is like the useless fun fact of the day.
Oh, okay. I mean, Ibo's running the skin. Mecha Aatrox just so happens to look like
it does look like something that you would have when you were growing up, like these little kind of transformer things.
And speaking of cool Transformers and toys, we've got a little precious toy that we've set up before the game. So we've got a head-to-head graphic to look at. Look at this pretty little toy. Thank you so much, production. Very even in a lot of ways.
Okay, real quickly, because that is my graphic. It's not actually 38-35, it's 28-35. So Heretics technically end their games much faster because they're a much bloodier team, right? So they snowball that early, they close out the games pretty early. It's 28-35.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting when you think about it as well, because they don't have the... Oh, you know what? Forget that, because look where Heretics are. They're going for the bottom lane invade. Yike gets level 2, though.
That's dangerous. Now the Trundle level 1 is really not enjoying this. Does have to get on out of there. The start from Yike, very, very dangerous, and the Manta Ray is slapping on him. whiteinn gets slowed, and DOS's Braum, so dangerous. As Piltover Peacemaker comes through as well, and that invade did not go well.
I will say, invading Belveth level 1, because they knew they were going to start towards that bot side of the map. We said we wanted to see them enter towards the top. That Trundle can beat Belveth 1 versus 1. The only problem is that Braum is one of the best level 1 champions in that damn game. And when you have 2 ranged champions that can start stacking that passive from the Braum, it becomes really difficult, especially if you lose the smite fight. So big props right there to LDLC to make sure that they do guard their jungler for that early game. And Yike has earned 2 quadrants this game for himself.
And I mean, this is actually all kind of prepped. The reason why DOS had base was because he put a ward in the river. They caught Heretics coming across the river itself. They say, all right, forget actually starting on the buff. We might think we can win the 3-3 at level 1. Let's just make it entirely unfair, secure the Wolf camp first, and then actually turn it into a complete brawl that we will always win.
That is such good news. And of course, the Karma is allowing the early shove in the box. That's what she can often do. But it's a little too late, right? The priority's down, but Yike's already cleared out that quadrant and survived the early attempts, which is great news for the side of LDLC.
You say survive the early attempt. What I'm seeing on my map right here is a sneaky Trundle that has walked in. And that's because if you look at the mid lane, Zwyroo has actually managed to shove in that wave. He's burnt a lot of his mana, as you can see on your left, but actually he's gotten that early game prior. On the 1v1, Trundle is favored even against Belveth.
But she does have the Void Surge, so it should be difficult to lock down for now. We've got to get over the wall and get on out. And loses a red buff, but doesn't lose anything else. Likely to lose options over that topside Scuttlecrap, but a potential reset or maybe a lane gank might still be playable if Trundle's too far away. They're going to go for this. Above as below comes through into a Void Surge. Now the Royal Maelstrom afterwards, but over comes bluerzor trying to turn this one around.
He's out.
Yike can't secure it. Ibo just slices and dices his way to safety.
Wow, that Renekton is like giga durable, especially when you have that shield early on.
This. Remember, he burned his flash early on. I don't know if he can survive this. Ibo's going to try and come over, but Yike is pretty low.
They could kill Yike.
Can definitely make me think about doing it. Ragner doing so much well. They're just going to get the kill over. Flash will secure first blood, but now Ibo doing his best. Still alive, the Void Surge away. Zwyroo does manage to get it with that Death Ray flashing on in. Ibo will not survive. Double kill for Ragner, and they'll make it a triple. This top laner is set up for success.
Ibo picked that Aatrox, which was supposed to be synonymous with his name, and Ragnar shows who's the boss, also on the same champion, getting these 3 early kills, and it all begins and ends with that top side of the map. Yike and Ragnar want to crush in that wave, but bluerzor overextends and gets caught, but he feels like he's in pretty safe hands, because if we look on the map right now, it is his mid laner that has priority first and moves first into that map. But remember, Zwyroo had burned a lot of his mana to try and get that shove into the mid lane, so he does not have enough for this particular fight to turn it around, and Ragnar gets away with murder 3-0.
And he's going the Eclipse build this time around. And not only that, let's just remember Renekton typically picked to try and shut down the Aatrox matchup a lot of the time. So now the fact that there's 3 kills into this Aatrox's back pocket, the serrated Dirk already in tow with a
such a broken item, man.
It's such a broken item, isn't it? Right? And look, he's already winning the trades here, and he's got double buffs just for additional stats. Now bomb side Exakick.
In danger, has to flash on away, but he's got a renewal courtesy of whiteinn, and a mantra secures a kill. It doesn't go to Jackspektra's Draven though.
Okay, my question right here is, what is Exakick doing solo in a lane versus Draven? I think they might have gotten baited by the fact that they thought whiteinn has probably reset and he's roaming on the map towards that mid lane, because that's exactly what DOS was doing. He had reset and he was roaming in together with his jungler. So they thought possibly Jackspektra was alone in the lane, which wasn't the case. And that is not as huge as we expected, because it's whiteinn again getting that one kill towards that bot side, but it's still Jackspektra cashing in on 2 very early game plays.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, actually, as long as he cashes in later, maybe it's not the end of the world.
You know what? You know what?
Because it's such an interesting... It's 5 minutes, right? Maybe you just stack up more.
Exactly. You know what? When we're all from the NOC, right? So we all know that Attila loved his Draven, but the way Attila and Kasink played the Draven, it's like, we'll just catch that feeder top laner later on. We'll cash in that 1k on the transition, don't worry.
Well, while we're back up on our eyes on this top side, let's bring up that head-to-head graphic, because last game, it was all Aibo all day long, but this time around, with Ragner with those 3 kills, looking so dangerous.
There you go. It took a second.
That was fine. There we go. But you can see both of these players have been pretty important, particularly in the quarterfinals. Pretty versatile players. But this game, it is the opposite number who's looking set up for success.
Yeah, and mind you also, Aibo as a player will resort towards the Sejuanis, the Orns, but Ragnar very similarly will play the Orn, just not as much. He does like his Bruisers, he does like his Fighters, and this is where you see a lot of the gold lead at 15 come through, because he will usually end on the better side of the coin when it comes to the matchup. But honestly, Yike's in the mid lane. Zwyroo has no flash.
Zwyroo in a bit of a tricky position, but we've got a fight in 2 fronts. Zwyroo getting hit with a Royal Maelstrom. That'll be a kill for Eika, courtesy of a Shockwave. Dragon secured on the other side, but it will be a 3v4 if they continue to take it. Health bar's pretty low on the side of LDLC, though, so they'll take the kill and take that in trade for the Dragon that Heretics took. Yeah,
really nice punish from LDLC to at the very least get a mid lane pick. I was wondering if they'll turn it into a red buff invade. You can see DOS is actually pairing up now with Yike to at the very least consider it. Level 6 available for Yike, so, you know, getting a reset potentially could be a very big deal, but looks like they're just going to walk out for now and just call it quits.
And my eyes fall straight into the resets. We're almost at 8 minutes. This is where Belveth comes online, getting that Rift Herald and transforming her form. So we'll see the mid lane pick again. Yike does manage to land the knockup, which will allow him another dash towards that direction as well. And when you're in a feasting mood right there, you don't take a lot of damage either. That's your defensive stance. But again, all eyes on resets. You see both mid laners have reset run to mid. And both supports are also making their way. Which AD carry is going to FF that bot lane wave to try and assist towards that Herald, because if anything, I feel like Exakick should move towards the top side of the map. Securing Herald with Belveth is huge.
Yeah, I think the big thing to really look at right now is bluerzor doesn't have 6. Yike, obviously, the ultimate's technically not an active, so yeah.
Yeah, you kind of need to kill something.
But you definitely want to have Subjugate here and available, and because LDLC are taking their time about this approach, bluerzor's going to be able to pick up the Gromp, get level 6, and now there's potentially the opportunity to work around this Herald. My only concern is, how strong is Ragnar at the moment in comparison to Aibo? And first move there is going to probably be the biggest factor in how things actually play out. But as we've kind of looked at the minimap, whiteinn's moved away, so it's not really going to be a contest.
Nah, it's not really a contest. I mean, walking into this river with a level 6 Yike when he's already casting the items as well, it's going to be really difficult to play. So I feel this is a bot side of the map, this is a top side of the map. Bot side for the map for Heretics. They're trying to get that Draven as far ahead as possible, for the 3 members of LDLC sprinting it. And if Jackspektra dies...
whiteinn taking the tower shots, and he'll get claimed as well. That's so unfortunate. Now in a 1v3, Jackspektra's got nowhere to go. The stacks are forfeit. Somewhere out there, Numeric cries in pain. Stacks are lost.
Heretics played the Gamba game by allowing whiteinn to take the kill earlier, and you know what? He lost. He's got no more stacks anymore. Massive turnaround in play for me, for LDLC being able to shut down the Draven stacks. And on the top side, I was expecting maybe the immediate cross map of Yike to just drop the Herald, but it looks like he just took a reset instead.
Oh, I don't know if you want this, if you're eyeball right here, so he's gonna dash away, but...
Oh no, he's gonna get out of that, it's fine, continue, Trouble.
A few missteps from the side of Heretics, because even though it was very obvious, it was very actually obvious to LDLC that they were forfeiting that top side of the map, because whiteinn showed bot lane, but for whiteinn to actually deal damage onto Exakick being underneath the tower...
Oh dear.
If I got that correct, I think the Comet... It wasn't even the Mantra Q. It was the
Aibo.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. Yep. Well,
it's Harry. Sorry. Yeah.
Every time we come out of a replay, every time there's something going on, Yike is here. And
Aibo's ultimate is going down, so he's not going to be as durable.
Oh no, I think this might just be void food. Aibo's going to heal up a little bit with a Cold Meat, but he has no ultimate, no way down. Yike is on the board, and death is in lavender this game.
I mean, the cross map's coming in from Heretics, but there's a Herald in the top side, and it's an empowered Belveth there to teleport to just dissuade this. But now Belveth gets a tower to herself on the top side.
So much gold going into the Void Emperor as the teleport comes through. The Whirling Death is blocked with the door. That one is not staying open, locked shut by LDLC.
It was more like the Whirling Death was fired into a door because the shield was already... I feel like there is some sort of missynchronization with Heretics right here, because even though the early game in the previous one went so well, it came through bluerzor being active, it came through that bot lane pressure that they constantly had, and now that they've been denied that pressure on the bot side of the map, denied their stacks onto the Draven, bluerzor has not been able to be active. It feels like LDLC are running away with all the macro in the game.
And now you're looking at a Belveth who's gotten first tower courtesy of a Herald, which means she gets all those Void Remora out on the field as well, which
She's also got 2.6k on her.
Right, so much gold out of the sequence of that play. Finally, bot side falls! No, not like this, it doesn't fall! The tower's alive, Ragner gets a kill, Exakick gets another, and LDLC can do no wrong in this game!
You know, I was about to say, maybe LDLC just had the download on this game from game number 1, guys, but Heretics, what are you doing? What's going on across the map?
They want that tower, or they'll trying.
Yes, a lot!
Okay, let's see exactly what ended up going down, because yeah, sure, they definitely wanted the tower. whiteinn takes up tower shot.
Again.
Oh, and the tower's now stacked. I mean, and then no one hits it because Ragner gets the kill. It's just a comedy of errors, just back to back to back.
Are we allowed to put structures on the MVP poll?
Can I also say,
Yes.
in the replay, I heard the all chat ping go off, so someone said something during the dive.
Do you think that was an
We've got to find out
That
what it
was
was.
100% an XD.
Question mark, possibly. Oh dear, it's not done. bluerzor is in a lot of danger. Will just about survive that, courtesy of a slow from the Mantra Q. Soul Flare doing its work. Dragon spawns. LDLC might be able to get this one.
I'm just gonna say, seeing how much scaling there is on the side of LDLC as well, how much frontline, how much tankiness coming out of the Belveth and the Aatrox and the Braum. If I'm Heretics and I'm 5,000 gold down here, I don't know how you necessarily turn this around. You're in a massive inventory deficit right here. You keep feeding. You keep feeding monsters.
The MVP is down.
And they didn't even have to touch it this time. It was the minions.
I mean, you know, the biggest worry for me for Heretics, obviously gold leader side, is also just, again, comp interaction, right? I feel like Heretics, ironically enough, are gonna run into the same issue that LDLC ran into in game number 1, with the range difference, and then also they just kind of get out bruised. Yeah, there's just no damage, but they also get out bruised.
It's a really unfortunate situation. Also, the fact that you have the Renekton, you do not get to use him early to mid-game for these Herald/Dragon fights. You forfeit them, you say, yes, we go late game, but unfortunately, Jackspektra has lost his stacks twice in a row right now, so even if he does cash in, he's not going to necessarily be in an item advantage at this point versus the Caitlyn. Even if he is, who gives a damn? Yike on the Belveth is huge.
Okay, we've got a 1v2 coming through, but I don't think Ragnar necessarily loses. This will pop the world ender, and I think that might just be what's happening to Ibo and bluerzor. The structure gate come through, but the Troll King is nothing in the face of the head of the Darkin. It's going to be a 1v3, but I don't think they're going to necessarily win this. I've seen those go the wrong way around, but finally a Ludens empowered Viktor will secure the kill, but that's still a 1-for-1.
And that's 700 gold going into Zwyroo's back pocket. Honestly, that's not too bad if you're talking about damage sources that can really carry through the game, potentially blow up one of these frontliners that are diving forward. Yike is also going towards the Bork, so he's going to be extra squishy. Speaking of Yike, actually, he's looking for a play on Jackspektra down here.
Well, the Void Empress is here, throws down the challenging smite. The above is below, does go wide.
I hate it so much.
I hate it too, man.
I've said it from the beginning of the year, from when it was out last year. Just, why do immobile AD carries need a dash, man?
This is one take that I agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, not the
Generally
Drake.
speaking, though, Gale Force isn't built on Draven that much. It's normally the Eclipse or the Immortal Shield bow. So how do you feel about the Gale Force this game in particular? Because it is a bit of a switch up from what Draven tends to go, at least in my experience.
I feel like being so immobile and short range, playing into a Belveth, Braum, an Orianna ball, and an Aatrox running you down, you will need some form of dashing around together with some speed ups from the Karma shields to try and pivot and maneuver yourself around these team fights. Now, of course, we're talking about team fights. This Draven is, well, his team is down 5,000 gold, and I just do not see who and how you kill Yike, who is 2 levels up on bluerzor.
They're nearly 5,000, well, 5,500 gold. Well, is that nearly 6?
You know what?
Just
Just
a lot
say
of gold.
the whole gold lead is pretty much just the top chunk.
I was trying to do maths in my head, and that went wrong because it kept increasing as I was looking at it. I was like, that's a lot of gold. They're going to get a second Herald as well. It's already super powerful with this Belveth, and LDLC have run over the top side of this map ever since that top lane play went so wrong.
Here's the problem with farming junglers. Once they get ahead and they get very beefy, the same idea was with Graves, right? Not only was he getting strong, but he was getting very tanky as well. He had a lot of sustain. Same with Belveth. Yike does not necessarily need many resources with him. He's a level up on bluerzor right now. He's almost the same level as the solo laners. Only Zwyroo is one level above, and he's very durable. So wherever that Belveth is, Heretics have to actually forfeit that side of the map, which means not only are you giving more farm away to Yike, who's going to be scaling from the attack speed he gets from all of these minions, but also you're forfeiting a lot of your vision.
Ivo, you sure you want this? They're bringing over members. That will be additional support coming, but it's not going to be quite enough, and Ragner will get to run away for now. Might cost him a top lane tower, however, with his teleport coming up shortly. Might just be okay. 9 seconds, so yeah, could probably get back that tower, should he so wish.
The second you see, though, 5 members of Heretics towards the bot side of the map, you shove in that mid lane, you shove in that bot lane, you make Heretics really quickly reply.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like Ragnar was about to murder Ivo if he didn't turn around as well. So I think it just goes to show what we were talking about, that goal difference so massive. Heretics trying to cross-map, I think, on this dragon that's coming up in 60 seconds' time. They want to just be as far away from a team fighting scenario as they can be at the moment, as they continue to try and just get gold where they can.
Feels like a complete inverse from last game where Heretics ran it over. LDLC have done exactly the opposite this time around. You can see those Void Remora beginning to spawn as well as Yike will clean up some of these minions. Got the Herald summoned as well. There it comes crashing in. Will not quite secure this tier 2, but it will get very, very close. A bounty cache in the top side as Heretics claim that turret. But it's still LDLC who have firm control over pretty much this entire game right now.
And it all started with LDLC's plan going into this game. Hold on.
Much damage. The Maelstrom does some damage. You can finish up your point now, Trundle.
Yeah, they know that bluerzor likes to invade towards the bot side of the map. They sacrificed a Draven lane by it being not so powerful kill-wise to get that pressure with the Karma, which meant that LDLC knew that Heretics wanted to play through that bot side of the map, and they instantly countered it level 1. So the fact that they went into this game with a plan that worked against what Heretics love to do in the early game and actually execute on it means that they ended up running away with the early and snowball themselves. But Heretics,
they're thinking about this.
They know somebody's coming.
Yeah, but Inspire from Karma makes them fast enough to get out of danger. There was some movement in the jungle there to try and collapse. It won't amount to anything. With that dragon alive, does look like LDLC will walk on over to it, and Heretics just not interested in contesting.
I mean, they just can't.
No. All right, actually, I've got a pop quiz for you quickly.
All right.
And I know I'm not Viper, but I'll do this anyway. I'll make it more literary because that's my background.
Yeah.
Belveth's passive is called Death in Lavender. Do you know what that's a reference to?
No.
The color of the champion?
King in Yellow, which is a Lovecraftian story about Hasta, who is one of the Lovecraftian gods. So Death in Lavender.
Very poetic.
Yeah, it is indeed. Very much so. Lovecraftian monster. Gets a little bit of reference to that. Of course, she's an empress as well, and LDLC, the reigning champions of LFL, looking to prove why they were pre-tournament favorites. DOS, not like that. Steals away a red buff with a key.
They can't win anything right now, can they?
Add insult to injury.
It's so in the wound. Anything you really want to pick there? I mean, at this point, LDLC are pretty much just waiting for the Baron to spawn up. I think they know that they are very, very powerful, very much ahead of the curve in comparison to Heretics, and they're just going to end up setting up across the top side of the map, deny the vision, force Heretics into them, and just allow Yike and Ragnar to completely mince them.
Yeah, the only difficulty that you're running to right now is just that Zwyroo is playing that Viktor. He does have the Luden Seeker, so he gets to clear these waves really quickly. Also, Karma, Mantra Q does pretty good damage to the minions as well, pre-minute 20. So for LDLC, I think it's very important to start getting vision towards the top side of the map, try to pull a Baron fake, if you will.
Yeah.
And then maybe trap Heretics and just end the game through the Baron.
I mean, you've got a Caitlyn who can fire at the Baron from over the wall, and a Belveth at level 12, 2 levels ahead of her opponent with 2 items. That Baron will disappear.
Not just 2 items, the 2 items in the game that probably murdered the purple worm the fastest.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be a pretty quick one, to say the least. And now you can start to see that there's a lot of pressure in the top side. There's also pressure in the bottom side. Ivo, poor Ivo.
You know what? Maybe it's not Ivo and Ragnar. Maybe it's Aatrox.
Maybe it's Aatrox.
Maybe he's the... Yeah, maybe it's just...
Maybe he's the problem.
Yeah, maybe Aatrox is the problem.
Flashback to the Shy at 2018 is all I'm saying. I shouldn't bring that up to an EU audience. I'm sorry about that, guys.
No.
I could just hear the not like this in the chat.
Well, they've got a teleport coming in, and bluerzor will be around, and this will be the Baron going down remarkably quickly. has Flash and a Dream. Over goes Exakick, who's trying to keep outside the Trundle.
DOS?
Still being speed up, trying to get it close. whiteinn gets DOS and dies. It's still a 1-for-1. Secures the Baron, and Yike will empower themselves with an endless banquet. Chaos Storm does all the work. whiteinn is doing so much work for a company. Over the wall go LDLC.
Eyeball.
How much more can they do? Jackspektra would love a cash in. 0, 2, and 2 has been kept out of this game. To stand aside onto Eika. Flash over the wall. No secure Ivo, though. Doing so much work. Getting taken out, though. Gets a shutdown. Does Jackspektra. Still, though, Yike is so deadly, so dangerous. Could do so much more work. A Void Surge available. The heal interrupted. Flash for the above and below. And below 6 feet is Jackspektra after the play.
So miscoordinated again by Heretics. They make such a good play. They cash in a few shutdowns, but then they overextend. See Naibo's teleport coming in and LDLC instantly punish. And right now, when Yike is still alive, you're just gonna use this Baron empowerment. You're gonna create your own Void Links as well through that, and you're gonna try to push in one lane.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that Eika dies, though, in this play is at the very least going to slow down LDLC on the initial push out. Let's get a look at the replay, though. Oh, it's actually the bomb side 1v1.
Oh, no.
He just wants Krugs, man. Just give him the Krugs at least.
Does he take the Krug, though?
Don't do Krugs at this point in the game. It's a bad idea. You're going to get taken out every time he gets the solo kill.
Krugs are a bait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so very cleverly, of course, from LDLC. They do have the numbers advantage. They do have teleport onto their Aatrox as well, so they're going to pull the trigger. Poor DOS right here. He gets absolutely ditched by everyone in the pit and ends up tied.
It's just a mix of, like, losing his MR, getting hit by the Mantra Q, goes down, right? And now LDLC kind of just on the forward tree, but Heretics, I think, in their over-eagerness to try and claw something back from probably a situation that's not really going to happen again, unfortunately, kind of overextend. The only positive to this is that Jackspektra gets a shutdown and he gets a cash in. I don't know how big it was, but at the very least, it's more goal.
Here, I'm a little bit question marking, because they were all moving as a team, and the Jackspektra's like, I will bay, but look at all the Void Links that have been created by Yike.
Gosh. The Void Remora hunting, and you can see it is blood in the water. The sharks are circling, or at least the piranhas this time around, and they are looking oh so hungry. LDLC already broken into the base, looking to even up this series and right the wrongs of game one. bluerzor is on the wrong end of a Royal Maelstrom. I thought Set was supposed to be the JoJo character, but that is some Muda going on right now from Yike. So strong on this Belveth.
I mean, again, now the questions start to come in for me about next game, because I'm just going to start talking about next game already.
Feels that.
It does kind of feel like that. What do you do with things like the Belveth? I think they had a pretty good read potentially on things like the Kha'Zix, which they banned away, but I think they were picking their poison, and I feel like potentially they picked the weaker of the two. Right now, Yike is taking over, and again, the Aatrox pick as well from Ragner is just coming so huge. Heretics feels like they run out of gas already, but they're going to look one last time.
Doors up, Yike goes in with the Void Surge, trying to heal up, and actually stunned up. A lot of damage coming through, but a shield from the command protect does what it needs to do. Ragner now living up to the name of Raid Boss, doing so much work. Hop 4 from Exakick, so much damage to Jackspektra, who has no mana, and that will leave the inhibitor. 3 pickings for LDLC, second one down. And maybe Heretics aren't quite done. They're not out of this game quite yet, even if it feels like they're down for the count. So much damage through, back in they go, Shockwave, and Yike is enough to murder as many people as they can. A double already for the jungler. In comes the ace in the hole. Jackspektra left on 10 HP. The game is looking like it is over.
It is over indeed. LDLC, they complete the download from game number 1, and they come into game number 2 prepped and ready. They pretty much shut down Heretics from the get-go. They knew the invade was going to come down, and they're going to level out this series 1-1.
Download complete. LDLC strike back in emphatic fashion. The top jungle dominate, and it's all over in a moment after, basically.
We said it, if LDLC are going to make finals, they do not want to make finals undefeated anymore. That didn't go so well for them in spring, but honestly, I think it was very clever because we did criticize their draft in game number 1. I think this draft said a lot more about Heretics than it said from LDLC. Heretics are like, no matter the cost, we want bot lane pressure. We want bot lane priority. We don't care if we're going to shove a Karma right next to our Draven and make it less of a kill lane and more of a push lane. We're going to do it to get priority. LDLC knew that this sacrifice was going to come through, and they actually punished it really well with very good pathing from Yike and actually defending him also level 1.
Yeah, I mean, biggest thing for me is all of that, but it also then ended up costing the top side because it was just a matter of fact that Trundle was late. bluerzor was late to the top side skirmish by the end of it, and it enabled Ragner to just pick up 3 kills for free, which, I mean, we saw what was happening in the side lane by the end of the game. Ragner was a complete monster alongside Yike.
I wouldn't be surprised if we just start B1 in Aatrox in this series, honestly.
It could happen.
There's a question for the analyst desk. And speaking of that, it's time for us to start throwing to a break. LDLC strike back in the series. It's an even one now, 1-1. Still more games to play. But before we get to that, we have to go to that break. So stick around. We'll be right back after a few minutes.